we can get this underway very shortly.
Question for me is, can Andy Knight do it? He came so close. If there had been one more lap yesterday, he may well have won the whole thing.
Yeah, Andy Knight had a good run yesterday. He got, like a good couple of cars between him and Foggy and that sort of thing. It's just where you can pass. And like if you come up on a bunch of cars and you're in a corner and that, it's probably going to slow you down a little bit. And, it's just the gaps that you get. And if you come onto a bunch of cars and you've got a bit more speed on them and you're going down a straight, you can obviously swing past them sort of thing, going into the braking area and that sort of thing. So it's sort of luck of the draw, really, and where you are.
I see the flag being waved, and that means we are underway, but there was quite a little bit of a delay there before we got started, so the tyres will have cooled down, and that's not a good sign because we started, with 25 degrees Celsius. It's upped a little bit as the day breaks, as it were, and the sun gets down onto the asphalt, so we're expecting higher temperatures, but they may start off just a little bit gingerly this time. And away goes the Chickadee car, the number 2 of Sinclair, because there was a stall by the looks of things. Oh, he's going for his own drag race. Who was that stalled on the line?
Shane Johnson stalled on the line. And when you have a car stalled on the line, that right in front of another player out there, it's lucky that Andrew Sinclair didn't sort of clip the back of him or anything like that. That can cause major damage to cars.
Away goes Knight and Fogg, side by side. Yesterday, Knight said that the reason he did so well was he dispensed with Fogg early, and he'll be wanting to do the same thing again because he doesn't want to get embroiled in a battle with the mighty Angus Fogg and his black and gold car. So we're looking at this battle here at the moment early on as everybody starts to jostle for position. And if you're new to Central Muscle Cars, let me just explain. We have a handicap start, so the fastest guys, here they are, will start at the back and all the way to the front to the slower guys. But we also have 3 classes, and that means that everybody is battling in their own class for their own points. And so it means that we have a very dramatic run. Andy Knight has done the first part of the job well. He's got ahead of Angus Fogg, and now both of them will go in pursuit of the rest of the field in these 2 fastest cars, as meanwhile the leaders are now coming across the line to complete the first lap. So, Janine Douglas started right at the front and still there at the moment. There's the 888. And trying to work out, oh, is that Janine Douglas in the 888?
888 is Janine Douglas, yes, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, my timing says 88, so that's all right. So she's still out front for now. How long could she stay there, I wonder?
Oh, it depends. She had to put a new clutch in the car yesterday afternoon, so she's got a different clutch in there, and the car is she actually races in the HQ series as well, so she's very good behind the pedal, sorry, and she's got very good racecraft, very good driver, but her car's probably down on power to the rest of the field, so it's just sort of, try and hold them out for as many laps as you can.
Ian, you mentioned Rodney Heads, and we just saw a glimpse of him in the number 16. What was wrong yesterday?
Yesterday, he had a couple of issues with the car, so he's just he didn't want to run it yesterday, and he's happy to be back out in the field now. So I think it might have been a clutch or a gearbox issue or something like that. So he's happy to get the car back out there because they don't like coming to the track and not putting on a show for the crowd.
Absolutely not. Well, he's making some way. He's got Paul Bowden in front of him. Here comes Angus Fogg, but Knight's already on this group in front of him, but they're slowing him down as they dive into Toyota. And this is the key, Ian, to this sort of racing, is that you don't want to get stuck between turn 1 and the hairpin behind 3 cars, because you really isn't anywhere to overtake, is there?
No, there's not. You've got to sort of use your power down the straights to overtake on this track and that sort of thing. Through the middle and that, hey, you may be able to squeeze through a little gap or something like that, but you've got to sort of stay away from the other cars as well, make sure that they're giving you racing room.
Well, Andy Knight now exits the hairpin. He's got those 3 cars ahead of him, but Angus Fogg has caught right up. He'll try to get ahead of at least 2. He's got 1 already. Comes towards Higgins. He'll try to get another, but again, he gets thwarted. And so now he'll have to exit Higgins and try to get past both these 2 men before the final corner. But this is good racing from Andy Knight, and I think he's got the bit between his teeth. I heard an interview he did with Sooty yesterday after last night. And there's his dad watching on.
there's a couple of people out there that have sort of banked their tyres from the last round, and they're out there on a couple of new tyres now, which gives them a little bit of an advantage. And most of the other field are out there on old tyres that have, you know, they were run at the last meeting, and now they're sort of scraping through the bottom of the barrel to see which tyres are the best to get out there on track and try and get some traction.
Yeah, it was interesting listening to Tony Galbraith's little bit about tyres, because it really is a huge part of this, and they cycle them as best they can and keep an eye on the tread wear and the even tread wear. But eventually these tyres will go, especially when it gets hot, as we're back with Janine. And she's doing a really good job too. Gary McElvey in second place, and then Rodney Head's now up to third in the number 16. So there you can see it, first, second and third. But as you can see, the cars behind are quicker, and they're coming quick too. And it includes Paul Bowden, Steve Neuer, Andrew Sinclair. Good run from Sinclair yesterday as well.
Yeah, very good run from Sinclair, yeah. Bruce Kett started in the same group with Sinclair this time, so he's a little bit happier of the position where he started, but it's hard to sort of...
Off goes the 67, Steve Neuer. Sorry, that's not Steve Neuer, that's the 67.
Rick Van Sweat is the 67.
Rick Van Sweat, yeah. So a bit of a moment for him, and he's parked it in the gravel. Could well be a safety, and that could change everything. And how does that work, Ian? Because if they bring out a safety, how do they work it?
Well, basically, the cars sort of all bunch up and that sort of thing, and the faster guys are going to be right on the back of the slower guys. So, it sort of makes it hard for them. But we don't really like it in this racing as well, because then you haven't got the guys catching up to the cars gradually. You've got a whole bunch of guys and the guys at the back have got 900 horsepower, the guys at front 400 horsepower. They just sort of fly past them, and you've got to watch out for the cars coming up, sort of thing. So, hopefully, if there is a safety car, which there looks like there is, they've got to sort of not lose their heads and get their head in the game and stay away from each other, basically.
Sadly, Rick Van Sweat is out, and he's going nowhere. We see the safety car on track, and if there is a Mrs. Van Sweat, sorry, no handbag for you. Well, I don't know that for sure, but,
I was talking to Rick yesterday, actually, and, he said every time he buys a new part for the car, his wife says, oh, where'd that money come from?
Yes. You can't hide once you're live streaming, can you?
Exactly, yeah.
Beautiful safety car out on track, but it's not what we want to see. And as you say, with a handicap race, what will happen now, of course, as you can see now in front of you, the whole field will bunch up in its handicap form. So the likes of Andy Knight and the guys moving forward, like Shane Johnson and Steve Neuer, will be in position, but their job has been made twice as easy now, because the gap that they originally had has now all gone. There's the 16. He's had a good run so far. Go ahead, Ian.
Yeah, it's a good field of cars. I mean, when they're slow behind the pace car, you can actually have a good look at them and see the whole field. To see these cars out there is pretty impressive. Like most people would collect these cars and throw them in a garage and put them undercover and not bring them out.
I was going to ask you that while we've got a little bit of pause in the action. Tell me where and how they pick what they want to run. I mean, I know it's a case of what's available, maybe in Australia and New Zealand, but do people go further afar? You were mentioning NASCAR engines coming from Steve Howe and a few others. How does it work?
Yeah, well, you can buy. There's a place called Race Junk in the States, and you can buy cars and bits and pieces from them. Probably the most economic way is to buy a whole NASCAR. One of the guys who's not racing this weekend, I work with him, Shannon Coker from Hamilton. He races an HQ. He bought an ex-Joey Logano car, which had a Hendrix engine, Jericho gearbox, and a 9-inch diff in it. And you can use most of the bits out of it, and all your ignition system and that, your gauges, all that you can throw into these cars. But you've still got to pick a car, and those cars are becoming really, really expensive now. To actually purchase like a car, like an X-race car or something like that, you've got to do that, and then you've got to fit it all into the car as well. So there's a lot of man hours and that go into putting like a cage and all the safety equipment, seats, all that sort of stuff, pedal boxes and everything else in the car. So, you know, it's a big job for somebody to, you know, convert a NASCAR into one of these cars, like an old taxi or, you know, like a Tirana or Camaro. But, you know, it can be done, and the guys the drivers have got their own preference with cars. There's a little bit of banter. Some like the Blue Oval, some like the Chev, some like, you know, some like the Holdens. You know, and even having a Valiant Charger out there, you know, that sort of Mopar stuff. So it's good to see them all out there in a good mix of cars.
Yeah, I was going to say another question. What, if anything, would you like to see in Central Muscle Cars that you haven't seen an abundance of late?
Oh, it's hard. Well, it's hard to say, really. You know, I mean, we've sort of got most of the cars that are from that era. You know, that you go from 55 through to sort of like just before the 80s when Ford dropped the V8 engine in the XE Falcon. That you go through to there, and the Commodores. We're up to sort of 82 is where it sort of stops. Anywhere from there to there, you can basically race anything that sort of is considered a muscle car. You know, like there's some bigger American cars that they used at sort of Daytona and those sort of things. Cam Crawford's got one of those, and he races it with us when he comes to the track and that sort of thing. So, you know, that's a big, huge sort of moving roadblock, really.
Could we not get Japanese or English cars involved?
Oh, I don't.
I mean, they got some muscle cars.
Yeah, I don't think that fits in with the criteria.
Okay.
I don't think so. Yeah, it's got to be sort of, yeah, like basically a muscle car that they sort of consider a muscle car sort of thing. So, you know, most of the things are two doors. The Jags are more sort of a classic sort of Euro sort of a car. So, yeah, like MGs, those sort of things, they don't meet the criteria.
Well, here we go then, and meeting the criteria at the front is Janine Douglas. She leads the way, but not for long. Up the inside comes Gary McKelvey to take the lead at the restart. And now this first lap of restart is going to be hell-bent for leather, because now the faster boys have got the ultimate chance to come through as they dive through Splash. But look at this melee. The cars at the back are faster than the cars at the front. Look at Angus Frog weaving his way, trying to put the needle through there and try to get through and get some clean air, but that's hard. Andy Knight hung out. He's got in front of Knight as Angus Fogg. Well, that's interesting, because before the restart, no question about it, Andy Knight was about 4 cars up the road. So well done to Foggy at the restart. Let's hope it's not a jump like he did at Hampton, but I think he's fine. But look at him right in there. Andy Knight will follow him through as they go through Higgins. And now both of them will want to jink out and get away from this melee of cars and get some clean air and start to try to lead this race. In the middle of all of this is the Chickadee #2 car of Andy Sinclair, doing a good job. Behind him, the 07. And really, really good, fun restart. Craig Boot, that's the man I was talking about. But there's the checkered flag, and there it is. Well done. Just about. Gary McKelvey just took the lead on that first corner, held on to it. Rodney Heads takes second place, the man in the number 16, and Paul Bowden will take third. Andy Sinclair, the man I mentioned, managed to get up to fourth. Craig Boot, fifth. Angus Fogg, with all that work, did defeat Andy Knight, and that could prove very crucial in the final tally, because Andy Knight wanted to get ahead of Foggy today, as he did yesterday. But well done to Gary McKelvey, took the lead. Confirmation of the result then of the handicap Napa Central Muscle Cars. Gary McKelvey taking the win over Rodney Heads, who's back, haven't missed yesterday. Paul Bowden third, Andrew Sinclair fourth, Craig Boot fifth, Angus Frog sixth, Andy Knight seventh, Clark Hopkins, despite that broken arm, finishes eighth after that win yesterday. Janine Douglas, who led for so long, finishes in the end in ninth position. Jane Johnson in 10th.